All right, so we are here with Digisorption number one. My inaugural guest is none other than Tyler from Gaia Force Gaming. You guys know him as the face and the main guy behind one of the most well-respected online weeklies, and he is a top player in his own right. What's going on, Tyler? Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be on and talk Digimon.
Heck yeah. All right, so just really quick, I want to kind of give a little bit of context on who you are and maybe your past experience in either competitive TCGs, competitive gaming, stuff like that. Maybe something other people might know you from that's not Digimon.
I mean, I've played TCGs most of my life. I took a pretty big break, as I exited college to develop my career and stuff. But nothing that people would really know me from. I've never really competed at anything beyond a local level.
Gotcha.
I like to consider myself a competitive player for those games, but I never really had the time, money, or effort to put into it up until with Digimon.
I definitely feel you on that. So were you like a Yu-Gi-Oh guy or Magic or?
Yeah, so I when I was really young, I played Pokemon, obviously, everyone in our age group.
Yeah.
And then well, my age group. I don't want to assume your age.
I'm 29, so.
All right, so about the same. I
Okay.
just turned 31.
There we go.
So,
yeah.
And then I played Yu-Gi-Oh when it came out. I took a little break, played more Yu-Gi-Oh. Stopped playing during high school, and then a couple years into college, I got into Magic.
Gotcha.
And then I think the one game I was trying to be really competitive with was Keyforge, and then when COVID really hit, the organized play for that game kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually interesting because we're actually going to get into the COVID thing a little bit later because I feel like you kind of were a key player in helping the community grow during that time. But I want to first touch on what drove you into Digimon TCG specifically. Is there something, was it the nostalgia factor? Was it the game itself?
So it was a little bit of both because I am a huge Digimon fan. I've always really liked Digimon, everyone liked Pokemon. Again, for our age group, it just came out. We grew up with it.
100%.
But when Digimon came out, I was like, oh, this has a little bit more of a story to it. In looking back, that sounds so cheesy because it was such a goofy, tongue-in-cheek, campy thing. But it really did kind of hit on more dark stuff for a children's show and more serious tones. I think if anyone who watched Digimon Adventure 01, the Skull Greymon episode was oh, this is this is addressing some stuff.
It was a little evil, a little dark, for a children's show for sure.
Yeah, it's you're forcing your friend to do a thing and something goes wrong.
Yeah.
But I've always really liked Digimon. It has a special place to me. And I picked up during, again, more COVID talk, I picked up a Chrono Clash to play with my local friends just as something we could meet up and do during the pandemic is a board game that was more of a card game because we missed, going to locals and playing card games, and it was a all-in-one box card game.
Right.
And then when I found out that Digimon was kind of taking the best parts of that game and making a collectible card game, I was like, oh, this is really this is awesome.
Right, exactly. So I know we're kind of rolling our eyes at the whole COVID thing, but I think it's kind of a key player in what we're about to talk about, which is online gaming or playing card games online, which is one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you specifically, because as I mentioned in the intro, you're kind of the guy behind Gaia Force Gaming, which is, like I said, one of the most well-respected online weeklies in the community right now. People talking about, oh, I topped GFG today. That's a huge thing in the community right now, which is super sick. And I was wondering, what inspired you to create GFG? What was the driving force behind that? Was it the COVID thing, or was it something you were going to do regardless? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, so Gaia Force Gaming, GFG, it really just started as a when Digimon got announced for localization in the US, I made the YouTube account. I was I'm gonna make content for this just to force me to keep up with the game.
Gotcha.
More so than anything. And it was just me. You can go back on YouTube too and check my old videos. Proxy. I think I did a proxy deck profile.
So you were in it. You were committed from the beginning. Then you were
yeah.
I'm in.
my locals, like, we printed proxies and had events, and then, like, as soon as they announced the set list for 1.0, we're like, you can only use 1.0 cards. Like, we were
you guys
in
are
it from the
hardcore.
beginning.
Yeah.
And then, like, for all, like, the PPG events, because PPG was really kind of monumental at the beginning, because Bandai had the one big North American event, and then it was just PPG events for, like, a few months. Especially up until the official release of the game, I think it was only PPG events other than the one big Bandai event.
Right.
And I would just always put Gaia Force Gaming under my team name, and it was just me. And then there was another guy locally who's no longer on the team because he's doing other stuff, bigger, better things with a different group of friends. And it was us, and then I have a buddy Trey, who's on the team now, who used to live locally, and he got into the game, and he saw that I was into it because he's still in our local Facebook group.
Gotcha.
And he was messaging me about it, talking about the game, and then eventually I was just like, bro, you're on the team, obviously. Like, so,
hey, he's like, you're in it, man.
And like just through networking, like me and Trey started play testing and talking to Dan Vang a lot, so like he joined, and then it started to become like a team. Now we got 5-6 members.
Cool.
Just solid group of guys. We made a Discord just so that we could all keep in touch with each other and talk and invite the people we play tested with. And then like we're just like, oh, let's just start doing weekly events just for a way to practice. And it grew to like just events for us, and then we would start like doing like, oh, we'll put $5 on the line, winner take all. It started like, and it just slowly grew into this point where like I have custom play mats, custom dice. People are playing every week, and it's awesome. It's really, really cool to see how it's grown.
So it was more of like an organic thing. Like you didn't create GFG with the intention of it being like this huge weekly thing. You're just, I'm gonna mess around with the guys, and then all of a sudden people just wanted to join in, and now it's like it's like a whole thing. Like you even said with the price support, like GFG mats, GFG dice, like people have those. Like if you just spectate random people on Twitch, like they'll have your stuff, and it looks great. It's super awesome.
Yeah, it was very organic, and that was the biggest thing. Is like at the very beginning, there were a couple members who were in and out. Like I said, towards the beginning, until we like kind of solidified the core people that we wanted to keep this going with. And, like some people were talking about, oh, we should do this, we should try to do that, and I was super adamant about like I don't want anything to feel forced.
Right.
I want it all to just be very like if it happens, it happens. If it grows, it grows. But like the biggest thing was like I feel like people can smell fakeness.
Yes, for sure.
I didn't want anyone to like look at us like we don't know what we're doing or we don't have our stuff together. Like and the way it grew organically to what it is now is kind of like really cool to see. But it's just we want to get people excited to play, keep people excited to play, and we've somehow very naturally become like known as like the place to test competitive ideas. And get a feel for like how well you're do at premier events, and like I really love that that's like our thing.
100%. So yeah, definitely there's definitely that air of authenticity at GFG, which I think definitely grows out of that whole organic grassroots sort of base that you managed to build. So I think that's super awesome to hear and confirm that that's pretty much the case. But then it also kind of sounds like you were kind of just thrown into sort of the TO role. Like maybe that wasn't like your intention, and all of a sudden you just became the guy doing the tournaments, or is that something you wanted to do anyways? What's the story there?
I definitely don't mind doing like, so I have very little free time, just based on like, I work in a restaurant. I do restaurant management, like upper management for restaurants.
That's some high stress.
So it's a lot of long hours, for sure. A lot of 6-day weeks, 7-day weeks sometimes.
100%.
So honestly, I love doing the TO role because it lets me keep up with how the meta is changing, especially since a lot of the player base is like really competitive, really skilled players, and I can kind of keep up with that without play testing that much myself. I could see like how people change their decks and what works and what doesn't. It kind of gives me like a little bit of an edge for like
that's a good point.
The time to input ratio can be a little skewed. So
Absolutely.
I really don't mind at all.
Absolutely. So kind of going off that, so since you're kind of the man behind the curtains now, essentially, I think one of the big questions behind like these online events or online tournaments is sort of the competitive integrity of them. So like, I know for me personally, I don't necessarily like playing online because I know there's always that question mark of like, is this person cheating me on camera? Like, I can't see their hands all the time, stuff like that. You know, there's stuff that you can't control in an online environment that you could playing against someone like over the table. And as someone who is like in a position of authority over these sort of online events, like, is that something you see often? Like, is cheating not really rampant in Digimon, or what's your take on the whole integrity situation?
So I actually personally hold to believe that you're going to see just as much cheating in real life events as online events. It'll just be different types of cheating.
Okay, that's fair.
But at least in GFG events, we really haven't had much problem, if any, with cheaters. I think while the prizes are really like what I think they're really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stoked when we make new prizes.
They're
I
awesome.
love all the stuff we make. I use them myself, but I don't think like any of it is like so over the top that people will cheat to try and win them. Especially since, at least the way it's run right now, usually it's whoever wins the big prizes, they all get the same. So it's like if there are 4 playmats in prize pool, it's first through 4th. So you don't like need to be undefeated necessarily to get that top prize. You can still get the same prize just for, doing pretty well.
Right. So there's less incentive to maybe, do a little sleight of hand on the camera or something like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we all know in Digimon that does happen from time to time, but it's just, stay vigilant. Especially the good thing about GFG is I'm very proactive, probably isn't the word. I'm very open about people. Like, I tell people who are and aren't competing, like, feel free to stream, feel free to like commentate it for yourself. I want people to see the event. I just ask, if players are uncomfortable, just leave. If someone asks you to leave. But so there's a lot of eyes on our events. I mean, usually GFG, there's like 4 or 5 different streamers streaming it, whether they're playing in it or if it's just Mario commentating it and talking to his chat. So it's kind of hard to cheat when you don't know who's watching.
Monday nights on the Digimon digital card battle on Twitch is all GFG, dude. It's actually kind of sick to see all the different point of views and all the decks people are running. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
So you're just saying, like, in terms of online versus IRL, like, you feel like the cheating aspect is pretty much a wash. Like, you don't think it's that big of a deal?
It's about the same. I just think it's obviously, if there's a video record of it, it's easier to have that in your mind. Yeah, I think that the cheating for online events is probably a little, I don't want to say easier, but I think it's what most people would think of when they think of cheating, like adding cards from off screen. False shuffling. But I think the cheating for like IRL events is probably more malicious and a little more someone, I think it was Danny Okos touched on his Gen Con video about like soft cheating and how much he kind of encountered it at Gen Con. And I never really thought of things like that, but coming from Magic, it is something you see a lot where people will make little mistakes and it's like, well, was it a mistake, or is it like
weaponized incompetence? Yeah, or the classic, the bend the card, that one. It's when your opponent cuts the deck. That's one from the Yu-Gi-Oh days, dude. You got to stack the Black Whirlwinds. Yeah, you go like this to the card, so when your opponent cuts the deck, that's a classic.
Hobby Sangan, right? That's the only thing I remember. From Yu-Gi-Oh days.
Yeah, the thick foils, those cut to the top. Oh man.
Yikes.
Yeah. All right, so do you think online events are here to stay then? You think cheating's not that big of a deal? It's a wash? Do you think
I hope that even if people feel like cheating happens more regularly in online events, I hope that fear gets offset by, I think online events are so healthy for a game. Like, I don't think Digimon would be where it is without online events.
Absolutely not.
And without like people like, oh, it came out during COVID. That's so unfortunate. But I think that was such a great thing for the game because, like, we have sold out regionals. Like every regional sold out. Every premier event gets sold out. People like are very engaged with the game. They want to play, and I don't think if this wasn't happening online, it would be it wouldn't have the reach it has. I think it's very healthy for the game. So I hope even if it scales down a little bit as things open up and restrictions get lifted, I hope that online events at least stay semi-monthly, like every other month we still have a big online event, because I think it's very healthy for a game. I hope other games start doing them.
Yeah. So do you think that online events in terms of just like Discord webcam, just like that is going to be the standard, or maybe moving forward, hopefully there's like an online sim? Do you think that could be the way forward? Like, which would you prefer?
Either way, I think it's really good. I think online sims, I love them. I think they're really good for accessibility, but there's something about like the tactile, like sensory of holding the cards that lets me think differently. Like I always played like paper Magic at a higher level than I could play like MTGO or Arena. I haven't really played Arena because I stopped playing when that came out for the most part. But it's just like the holding the cards and something about like that tactile movement makes my brain juices flow different. So
yeah, are you a hand shuffler, dude? You hand shuffle? You got that?
Oh, I'm so bad about it.
Dude, me too, dude. Yeah, I think all the Yu-Gi-Oh players have that. It's in there, dude. You can tell Yu-Gi-Oh player, they got that shuffle, dude. They got it down. Those small cards. Oh man.
But yeah, I think online events are really healthy for the game. Even if it is a sim, I would like sim would be really good for accessibility, but I hope that one doesn't hurt the other, if that makes sense. Like Pokemon has a pretty good balance of people who play the online version versus paper, and I hope that it's something like that if it does come to fruition.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see. I mean, there's the tutorial app, which hopefully they could expand on, but I don't think they have any plans necessarily.
Yeah, there was also for Digimon Fest, they were basically using that as a stress test for like an online software.
Yeah, I heard about that.
World Finals was all done on the same software, the one that Chungman won.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see it come out to the public, but I don't know. Japanese companies tend to be slow when it comes to online stuff. So
yeah, it's not always a bad thing. Like it's better to get a really good product eventually when we have something that already works, like Discord tournaments, than to like have something rush that would kind of be really buggy and not great.
Yeah, 100%. So speaking of Discord tournaments, I kind of want to get your take on what someone who is maybe trying to start an online weekly could do. Like, do you have any advice as someone who's pretty much at the top of Discord weeklies? Like, is it the prizes? Is it the organization? Like, everything from there up? Like, what do you think?
I will say it's a lot of work on the back end that people don't expect.
Yes.
It's a lot of troubleshooting behind the scenes. Like now, I'm pretty good at Best Coast pairings because that's what we've been using the whole time. So I'm pretty savvy with that. But it can be a little tricky. It's a little hectic sometimes. But you just got to really want it. And also, like, a lot of people are like, oh, you guys get so many people, you must be doing great. But it's like, I put almost all the money made back into prizing and running more events and stuff like that. So it's not...
That's the key, yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, but what people also don't realize is Best Coast is, they send you a 1099 at the end of the year. So, like, you get taxed on the entries as well.
So you're kind of,
a percentage away for that, too. Especially since we did, like, last year, I didn't realize how popular we were, and I got kind of a surprise.
Shoot.
My refund got completely eaten by that.
Oh, Uncle Sam came knocking, dude. That's tough. I hate that, dude. I hate that.
It happens. Yeah. That's just, that's America, baby.
The price of freedom. Oof. All right. So, hey, that's something that I'm sure people didn't even realize, getting 1099 on your tournament entries. So,
it's, and that's anything, too, because even PayPal now, if you do the friends and family thing and do it through like a different software, like you're gonna get hit if you hit that 600 mark. So
yeah, that's true.
Or whatever it is now. I don't use PayPal.
There's a minimum. Yeah, I don't know either, man. But that's true. All right, so that's a really interesting kind of behind the look scenes on Gaia Force Gaming, the tournament, like the background of it. And now I kind of want to move in a little bit more to talking about Tyler, the player, and not just the tournament organizer. So you're someone who actually, besides just being a TO, you actually have quite a few tops under your belt, I'm pretty sure. And I think you've won a major event? ? Yeah.
I've won. So I have not won a major Bandai event.
Okay.
But I have won a couple. I've won a PPG
That counts.
online qualifier. I've won a PPG in person at TCG Con. I've won Digital Coliseum, who isn't really as prevalent anymore, but they were like a weekly online event, like back in the early days. And we actually, that's kind of how we got started. Is we partnered with them, and we would both do events that gave invites to Ernest. He was the person who ran Digimon Coliseum. He had like a really cool invitational. I actually still have the prizes from, because I got my invitational where I won these really cool crystal dice with the crest on them. I don't know how
those are
sick up to these prizes, but
those are sick. Yeah.
And yeah, I won. So I won a Digital Coliseum event to get me an invite to their crystal dice invitational. And besides that, like, it was just a lot of tops. I've topped when the game came out. I like every major event. I would try so hard to just try to top 16 everything. And I think for the most part, for like the first up until probably set 4, I think I top 16 every event I played in except for 2.
Okay, so that
was pretty wild.
That's an interesting. Okay, I want to build on that a little bit. So do you think the player base has gotten better since set 4? Because I noticed something similar in my personal experience, but I want to hear your take on it.
I think it's probably a combination. I think the player base has expanded. We've gotten, more players. People have taken the game more seriously. But also, just for what it's worth, like at that time, it was like prime lockdown. I wasn't doing much besides going to work and playing Digimon, and I was playing one deck. I was just like Omni Red all day, every day for every event.
You're an Omni Red player,
now
bro.
I'm playing different decks. I'm not as focused, so that's part of it too. But I still do. I want to say probably about 80% of the events that I play all the way through, I'll end up in the top 32.
That's really solid, yeah. Because I know
I don't hope I'm not fibbing on that number, but
no, I mean, I believe you. Like I see you on Twitter. You're always posting your tops and how well you're doing at events. So I mean, it's crazy, honestly. Because I would consider myself like a average, slightly above average player. Like I'm good at locals, but at like a regional level, I go like X2, X3, like scrub, like whatever. So I'm really curious to pick the brain of someone who has consistently topped. So what is sort of your mentality going into an event? Like, are you someone who emphasizes practice? Are you someone who emphasizes deck building? Or are you someone who like picks like the perfect meta deck and then like counters everyone and that's how you get your top? Like what's kind of your take on that situation?
So I think, and this might be controversial with other players who are competing and doing really well over time and regularly, but I think there are a couple factors that really help you do well in an event. I think the more comfortable you are with the deck, the better you're going to perform, even if it's not a meta deck. Like, just the better you know your deck, the better you will do.
Yes, that's a very common trap people fall into. Yeah.
Don't change your deck last minute.
Yeah.
Like, don't do it unless there's like 110% reason to do it. Like,
yeah, that's me to a T, dude. I'm the guy who practices green hybrid, and then the day of the event, I'm like, I'm gonna play Metal Guru X, and I'm gonna beat everyone's loose to the mirror round 1. That's me, dude.
Especially like a format like right now. For, people watching, we're in BT9 format. I think right now is the format of knowing your deck better than your opponent knows their deck. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, this format is something else, man.
The other thing that I think is really important is avoiding like brain fog or just putting yourself in like a different headspace. Like if you lose a game, like just kind of reset. Like don't let it follow you the rest of the day. Yeah, just avoid tilt at all costs. Like I get to the point where like during a match of 3, if I feel myself starting to worry about the match, I'm like, okay, it's not about winning the match, it's about winning this game. And then if I find myself starting to like feel the pressure of the game, I'm like, okay, it's not about winning this game, it's about winning this turn.
Right.
Like, how do I make this turn the most beneficial turn it could be? And then even like you could even break it down smaller than that. Like, how do I win this exchange? Like, how do I put myself at a better position than my opponent with whatever card I'm about to play? versus my other options.
That's so true.
If you break it down like that, it becomes more tenable, and it feels less like winning an event. And like, if you win enough interactions, you win a game. If you win enough games, you win a match, and that's how you end up winning.
Yes,
events.
Exactly. It's like a reverse pyramid. Like, you have to look at it that way. You break it down to like the single most controllable piece, and then you build from there. Because if you start looking at the forest instead of the trees, you're gonna get lost. But for sure. Classic idiom right there.
I tell people all the time, and like I told my local buddy who came second at Gen Con when he was like 5-0, and he's like, man, it's like 3 rounds left, and I was like, you've gone 3-0 before.
Yeah.
You go 3-0 at locals all the time. Just do 3-0 again. It's just one more 3-0.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, you have to reframe your mindset like that. And some people they get lost in the moment. Like that's what we call choking, right? Like all the pressure of the moment gets to you, and all of a sudden the things that you should know, you lose them. Like you just.
I mean, it happens. I mean, I think my biggest problem is tunnel vision. Like I tend to really get tunnel vision on. I have to actively avoid it.
Yeah, that's one that comes from just practice, right? Like avoiding tunnel vision, because sometimes I don't know, let's say you're playing I'll use myself an example. This weekend I was playing that Ophanimon loop deck, and I was tunneling so hard on recovering that I forgot I can just play Mastamon to win the game. So I was like,
At Nats last year, I bubbled out of day 2 because I just miscounted what my opponent was presenting lethal, and I didn't see it because I just didn't think about his Digimon and raising, which is like the most rookie mistake.
That's a very classic, very, very classic beginner mistake. It's just not counting attacks versus security. Yeah.
Yeah. Whoops.
100%.
That's a big dumb move.
Yeah. All right. So just in general, do you have like a specific type of deck you gravitate towards, and that's what lets you top so many events, or would you say it just comes down to technical play or just mentality, or do you think it's a combination?
I think I enjoy playing kind of like big risk, big reward decks more, and whether it be combo, aggro, or what. Like I really like Beelstar for this format because it is kind of like a high roller deck.
It most certainly is.
But I tend to like decks with really high ceilings, even if their floors are lower than most, because I like the ability to come back from anything. Whereas like, for example, Rookie Rush in Lord Nightmon format, Rookie Rush was like a high floor, low ceiling. Where it's like, okay, but if your opponent gets ahead, you're just losing. Like I don't like decks like that. I don't like to.
Okay. So you like to be like in a position where you could eventually overcome your opponent.
Yeah. If I get behind, I like to know that I could still, with a little bit of luck, or maybe a little bit of outplaying my opponent, or maybe they get bad luck. Like I like to be able to capitalize on little moments to be able to get back in a winning position.
Okay, makes sense to me. So to that effect, can I ask you what your favorite deck of all time is?
Oh man, my favorite deck of all time.
Tough question, I know.
I know, it's I think it might be Lilith Loop.
Lilith,
fun playing Lilith Loop in its prime.
That really speaks to what you're saying about high ceilings. Yeah,
you could just take off with if you got the right cards.
Yeah, and that was a deck you could player difference with like a lot. Like you could like if you were a better player with Lilith Loop, you can pretty much take anyone to the cleaners. And I've been on the receiving end of that one. I have a buddy who would like practice that deck like super hard. I would always get shit on by him.
I taught Yang everything he knows.
Yeah, you're the guy behind Human. Yeah. That's funny. Okay, if he watches this video, I'm sure he'll get a laugh out of that.
No, Yang's great. We played Tested Loop a lot. He just he stuck with it longer and just had more practice in with it. He played it great.
And that's a deck where your practice really shows. 100%. All right, so moving on to the next topic. So we've talked a little bit about online events, and then you're also someone who has actually gone to a few IRL events, real life regionals, which are something new in like the past year or so. Is there a difference, do you think, in like the energy or how you approach an IRL event versus an online event? What do you think about that?
Just a lot of people are used to online events. Don't forget, in real life events, bring food, like bring snacks, granola bars, just any sort of quick, easy snacks.
Yeah, there's no food at the venue. No food at the venue.
Yeah,
That's
sometimes, stay hydrated, know where the bathrooms are, stuff like that. I'm really
mhm.
lucky. PPG is only a couple hours from me,
Okay.
so they've been having pretty regular IRL events since 1.5, basically. So
Mhm.
I've been going to them. TCG Con is only a couple hours from me. They have like 2 or 3 of those a year, and PPG always hosts a pretty big event there. Miami Fest was only a couple hours from me.
Yeah,
I
man,
was
you're
able to
lucky,
go
dude.
to that. Yeah, the for
Uh,
traveling, the only real traveling I did was to Gen Con. I went to
yeah,
both Gen Cons, and it's a blast. I think everyone should go to Gen Con.
man, I'm over here in
It's so
the
much fun.
I'm in the West Coast desert, dude. Our first offline event is barely coming up in September. It's San Diego, so I'll be there.
That's exciting, though.
Yeah, you gonna be in San Diego, dude?
I don't think so. It's hard to travel
No,
that far,
yeah,
man.
yeah. I feel you're gonna be flying all the way across. It's a 4-hour flight from Florida to
Yeah,
California. It's tough.
and like I took the time off for Gen Con. I took a week off, so like it's hard to with work getting approved
Gotcha,
for that much time off.
gotcha. All right, no problem. Maybe another event somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
We'll
I
we'll
gotta
meet
I
up.
gotta save it just in case Nats is in person this year. I gotta be able to get to
True.
Nats.
True. Yo, I'm still struggling for that invite, dude. Fighting for my life against Megadeth.
You got it, dude. You just gotta do it.
uh,
Just play in all the regionals.
yeah, that's the
Just
plan. That's the plan. The store chance was the
throw yourself
plan
out.
A, but I got gate kept by Megadeth, so we'll
Yikes.
we'll figure it out. But would you say, okay, we'll get off me losing to Megadeth and we'll talk about, would you say that an IRL top is more legit than an online top? Like, is there a difference? Do people
I
respect
think
one
they
more?
both have. I think they both have their merits. Like because there's something a little more draining to playing IRL events.
The
I
mental
think
game,
it's
yeah.
a little bit more mentally taxing. But either way, online events they last so long because usually online
Yes.
events are like 500 something people, and in real life events are like 100 to 250.
Yes.
Uh, Other than Miami Fest, Miami Fest was insane. It was like the full 500 still.
Jesus.
Uh, but like Gen Con, all of those events were like 160 to 200, like right, and that's a pretty good mark.
Yeah.
I think we're really lucky. Like the Digimon community, IRL events have felt really, I don't want to say casual, but they felt really welcoming. Like it just, and maybe it's because of like where I am as a player with like notoriety. I don't want to
Yeah.
discount that, but like it just felt like a good time. Like there was very little saltiness, and
Hmm.
if there was saltiness, it never really felt directed at your opponent. It always felt
Yeah.
like
At the game.
directed at like, oh, I got
Yeah.
bad security or blah. But
Exactly.
it felt pretty good overall. Like I remember being at Gen Con, and I was in a pretty serious game, and at the tables like right next to us was Dragon Ball,
Uh-huh.
and like they were like getting really heated.
They were sweating, dude.
There was a disagreement about who lost game one, because someone like conceded, but his opponent thought that he had conceded because he was like, "Oh, you got full
Oh.
combo." He's like, "Yeah, I got full combo," and they both picked up their cards, but there was like a disagreement about who actually conceded, and like there was just a bad communication. I was like, "Oh, yikes!" That's.
Yo.
I literally looked at my opponent. I'm glad we don't have to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Sometimes at my locals Sometimes we play next to Magic players during their tournament, and I'm hearing their arguments. I'm like, damn, man, I'm glad I'm not those guys arguing about lands. Like, I don't know what is going on over there, but oof, that's true
yeah, I
though.
mean, at the end of the day, we're playing this game as a hobby. Like we're trying to de-stress, you know.
Yeah,
Like why make it more stress?
it's a children's card game played by
Yeah.
adults. Like, why are we
Don't
stressing?
get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I take it very seriously, but it should be fun.
Agreed.
Should be fun before anything else.
When you sit across the table from someone, do they recognize you as GFG Tyler? Like percentage of the time?
Sometimes. I think most of the most of the time I have this. It's kind of cheating, but so I'll have the GFG mat that says my name.
Oh, yeah, that helps.
But
That
sometimes
helps.
they recognize me. And that's really cool. I remember the earliest I could think of is a lot of people flew out to TCG Con, like the first one in Tampa,
Mm-hmm.
that PPG hosted. Like there were people from like Cali, there were people from Texas. It was crazy
Mm-hmm.
because I think it was like the first IRL event, and that was like we just got our first batch of dice. So I was like, "Hey, do you know GFG?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I know GFG." And I was like giving away dice, and that was really
Okay,
cool. That was a
that's
lot of fun.
awesome. All right, follow-up question. When someone recognizes you, do you think they get nervous and play worse? Do you think being okay? So, kind of my logic behind this is that I noticed. So, in again going back to myself in BT4, BT5 meta, I was on a tear with green at locals. I was getting first at every box tournament, the regular tournaments, and then when I would get paired against someone, they would get nervous playing against me because they're like, "Oh man, I'm against Joel. I lost already." So they would defeat themselves before they even played me. Is that a phenomenon that you notice at regionals, or does that not matter when you get to top tables and everyone's like good at the game?
I would like to think it doesn't matter, but I'm sure to some level it does. I mean, to be fair, to some level, like if I see my pairings and it's a name I recognize, someone I play test with, or someone I know just been doing good,
Yeah, take it a little
I'm like,
seriously.
oh
Yeah.
no! Like I remember at the beginning, and I hope he doesn't mind me name dropping because I know we're not super close, but at the beginning stages of the game, like I would get paired against Chris Stock, and he was like he would ruin me every game we played. I'm like, man, I
Yeah.
gotta play Chris Sock again. He's gonna 2-0 me,
Yeah.
and he always did. Like, like at the
Yeah.
beginning of this
It's
game, I
that
could
mental
not beat
barrier.
him.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And I noticed in general, just that mental barrier is huge because even at locals, like when someone new starts coming to the game, they get like 0-2 bopped like every game, but they still come back, and then eventually they finally grind out that first win at the locals. Then they keep winning more. So it feels like it's just that mental barrier. Like once they realize, oh, I can win,
yeah.
then the wins keep coming.
It's like I said earlier. It's like I've gone 3-0 before. It's
Yeah.
it's like that mentality you get into. Like
Yes.
I've won a locals before. I could do it again. Or like I've beaten Metal Garurumon X before. I could do it. Like it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. So when it comes to like I don't know, like an 8 round regional, if you like just break it down, like okay, it's just a 2 round local, it's a
two
3 round
4-0s.
local. Yeah,
It's
it's
just
just
two 4
it's just 2 4-0s, like no problem. It's 2 locals, 2 Sundays, easy.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good tip. I think people will really like build from that, learn from that, myself included, because that's a tough one to learn from for
Yeah,
sure.
just like 8-round tournament. If you're like, I gotta go 8-0, that sounds like a lot.
It's
So like
monumentous. Yeah.
if you break it, yeah, if you break it down, I also think like for the most part you have to play 3 rounds to get your participation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for the first 3 rounds, you should just be playing the game the best you can. Then if you're still undefeated, take it more seriously. If you gotta grind your invite, take it more seriously. But if the first 3 rounds you're not feeling it, get your day back, man. It's not that
Yeah.
serious. Drop, go do something fun.
Go outside,
Like,
touch grass, as they
yeah,
say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Your mentality is more important, like than
Yeah.
like the thing I hate to see is like if people get a first loss really early and then get like that next loss in the last round and then bubble out and then they let it like just ruin their day.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You still played good. Like X2 is still a good record.
It's
Top
just
64
cards.
is still a good finish.
Yes.
I mean, in a 500 some person event, top 128 is still a great finish. Like you're still in the top 20% of players. That's crazy.
Yeah, and people don't like contextualize that. They're looking for that win. They're looking for the first place, or they're looking for like the top 4, and when they don't hit it, it's an L. And it's not necessarily about that, dude. Sometimes it's just about tops. Yeah. Like who do you think is scary? Like the guy who only has one first place to his name and has like X3'd every other event, or the guy who goes X1 every event? Like who's the better player?
Yeah, and not only that, but like we are playing a game where RNG is a little bit of a factor. Matchups are a little bit of a factor. Depending on the meta, matchups are like right now, matchups are huge.
Yes.
So like some days, you won't hit the deck that just silver bullets your deck and you can't do anything about it. Some days you will. You got to be realistic with your expectations. You can't
100%.
win every event, but you could always do your best. And I think that should be your focus.
That's a good takeaway. So to that end, do you think that topping is like a true indicator of skill, or is that just kind of secondary, or just like a thing to add to your trophy case?
I think, and I hope this doesn't come off like I'm humble bragging.
No,
But I
please.
think the people who top a lot and often are less concerned with topping than the people who are like really chasing it. Like I
Yes.
know like
Yes.
Dan Vang is on my team, great friend, great
Yes.
player, great guy. I know he could care less about topping. Like he literally doesn't care if he tops or not. You know, he went to Miami Fest, went X4, had a great time. Like it didn't make his
Yeah.
weekend any less good.
Dude, that's perfect. That's perfect. Oh man. So yeah, but exactly like people who are like obsessed without getting it's like feels like you need the top to validate yourself as a player and they don't realize that it's just about playing the best you can and hey if you get there you get there and if you don't then you know try better try more next time or maybe you just got yeah you hit everyone playing Avenged Kidmon when you're running BL Star like I don't know like
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is too, I'll say this for everyone watching who does have that mentality, like, oh, I just want the dub, I just want a top, I just want to win. I'll let you know, a little behind the curtains, at least for me, it's never enough. Like you'll get your top that you want, and
yeah
you're like, you know, it feels good, but I thought it would feel different. You'll get your dub, oh, it feels good, but, and then you start to get kind of like an imposter syndrome. Like one of my buddies
yeah
who like won his first big event, and he's like, oh, but does it really count because this format's so high roll? And I'm like, dude, you're a good player,
oh
whether you won or
no
not, like you're
yeah
fine. Like, so it's not. I don't want to sound depressing, but it's like you're chasing a high that you're never gonna get. Really,
right
it's more about the ride to get there than
yes
it is. I think like I've heard interviews with like, not to compare this to like sports, but like
no
I've
please do
heard
yeah
interviews with like Mike Tyson talks a lot about like he
uh-huh
was in the like, top of his game and he was like getting Lamborghinis and giving them away or like buying
yes
all this stuff and just
yes
because it stopped mattering to him.
mm-hmm
And it's just like you get to that point. Like what do you chase? Like
yeah yeah
I think
when the win no longer feels like a win like what is there like I don't know
yeah. So you should just always try to play your best. Try to promote the game in a healthy way. Like that's really where I'm at with it. Is I want to build the community, make sure people are having a good time playing, whether they win or lose. And sportsmanship's huge for me. Sometimes I get tilted, but I try to never do it in a
yeah
way that makes my opponent uncomfortable.
yeah yeah you don't want to yell at your opponent for hitting Megadeth in security first check it's not their fault man
It happens. And
yeah
like the thing that's really hard to lose focus with Digimon too is like I see a lot of people get upset because oh their security saved them. Oh man, they got so lucky. It's like, all right, but how many games have you won because your security saved you or you got
yeah
lucky? Like it's a give
confirmation
and take.
bias classic
Yeah,
confirmation bias yep people don't realize that they get lucky just as much as the opponent gets lucky that's just how it works
absolutely.
that's just how it works oh man so okay speaking of getting lucky I want to talk to you a little bit about BT9 meta since that's the current meta we're in for people who will maybe be watching this video in the future what
Or
is
from the past,
or
which is
from
more impressive.
true what is your take right now? Because I know people are kind of they were shit talking this meta a little bit at the beginning, being like, "Oh, just OTK versus OTK coin flip meta." But
I think people are a little wild. I think the meta's really healthy. I think that a lot of people. This might be a hot take. I think a
give it
lot
to
of
me.
people are too slow to adapt. I think you can't play the game the same way you did last format. And a lot of people are trying to play the game the same way and getting punished. And they're like,
Yes.
wow, this format's so high roll. It's like, well, if you know that they have a security bomb and you only have a tower with no backup plan, why are you
Yes.
swinging into security without a backup plan?
Me,
Like,
at me. Yeah.
just in general, sometimes you got it.
No.
Sometimes that's the only play, but sometimes you hit the Megadeth.
100%, dude. Whew. What's do you have a favorite deck in this meta? You're running BL Star, right? Is that your favorite deck of this meta?
I was maining Battlestar. I played Armor for like a couple weeks. Brought it to a store champs. Really liked Armor. Uh, I I built and played Black War Greymon because Twitter wanted me to.
I
like.
think that
I
deck is
think
kind of good. I think Black War Gray is
every
kind of
deck
good.
this format feels like it could be a win. Like that's the good part about
Yeah.
having a kind of high rolly format is like any deck could take it any given time. I mean, even though a lot of people are like, oh, it's OTK versus OTK, this is probably the most diverse meta we've seen.
It's not. Yeah, I realized
Like,
that. Like, I mean, our first major tournament, BT9 D Reaper took first. That
yeah,
already
that's
speaks
crazy.
to. That was so nuts. And then the second one as
You
well,
watch,
D Reaper.
yeah, you watch Eggman breakdowns of all these top 16s, and
Yep.
it's like, out of top 16, it's sometimes 9 different decks. That's crazy.
Yeah. Wasn't like last fortnight where it was 15 out of 16 blue hybrid, like something like that. Uh, Absolutely crazy. All right, man. So, do you have like a favorite meta in general? I don't know if I asked you that question already.
I don't think you have. But I don't know. I think hmm, I really like this meta. I think this meta is fine. I think every meta has been better for the game for the most part than the last in a different way. I think people got sick of Lord Knight because it got solved so quickly, but I think it was just because it got solved so quickly.
Yeah, and also that
Like,
format got extended because we got our product delayed
yeah,
for
we
the.
had it for so
Yeah,
long
that was another
that like
problem. Yeah.
we found like the best 2 decks in the format, and that's all anyone played.
Yep.
Uh, and like we played them like to the best they could be played. It was also probably, I think, the one format where we were like completely aligned with Japan's list
Yes.
and release schedule, so we could.
Yes.
A lot of people just took exactly what Japan ran and
Yeah.
ran with it.
That's something I've talked about before too. Yeah.
I do like, for the most part, how we're getting at least a little like the release schedule is a little different. We have different promos.
Different
We
ban
have
list.
maybe a ban list.
Yeah.
So it's a little different than Japan's here and there. Like right now, we're, other than the ban list that just happened, we're pretty close to what Japan was, but we don't have those security Digimon promos.
Yeah,
Like
those are key.
the rookies that came out, and those are pretty big for some of the decks. So
Yep.
I like that we're staying a little different.
All right. Do you have a least favorite format, like of all time? Is there something like you were like, man, I'm gonna quit this game because of this format, or?
Oh no, I will never quit this game. Like, I'm gonna play it till it dies.
Hell yeah, I'm on that train too. All right, and very last question for you: do you have any advice for someone who's still out there trying to grind their top? Maybe like a hot tech, like deck choice, or is it just take it easy? And...
I think you should play what you're comfortable with. Be realistic with your deck choice. Like, maybe if you're really trying to get your invite, maybe don't bust out your Dan Devimon Turbo deck. Maybe that's for another time. But play a deck that you know is consistent, that you get some good practice with, and that you have a good time playing, whether you win or lose. That's really important too. Because if you're gonna have a bad time, like nobody like. If you're not going to have fun playing your deck, like, don't play security control. You don't like playing security control. Then you're going to lose, not like playing the deck, and be frustrated.
Yeah.
That's like such a big, like,
it's L all around.
I know a lot of people gravitate to like, I need to play a hardcore competitive deck, and they think security control.
Yeah, like, I'm tired of where Guru's swing into me for free. I'm gonna play security control. Yeah, that's a classic. Yeah.
I like the way security control plays. I don't know. I'm a special breed of person, I guess.
Yeah, I don't mind the deck either. I've always thought it was fun.
It's fun. I think every deck is fun. I think people like to minimize other people's accomplishments and like blame a deck or
always.
Like, oh, it's rookie rush. It's not a real win. Oh, it's security control. It's not. It's like
every game.
Every deck.
Every game outside of card games, just like any competitive game, it's always going to be like, oh, like he just had this and I didn't. Like, you can translate that to anything.
At the end of the day, you got it or you don't, and I think you should try to make choices to where you can pay off if you do got it.
Yes, sir.
And choices to where you don't get punished if you don't.
Exactly. All right, so that's pretty much going to do it for the first ever episode of Digisorption. I want to give another thank you to Tyler for joining me. Really appreciate it. Do you have any shout outs, any upcoming events you want to give?
Shout outs to Gaia Force Gaming, the whole team, Dan, Trey, Shannon, and Ben. Shout outs to every Digimon content creator, just making this game more popular. You guys do a better job than me. I just have have a good community. That it's the players that make the community good. And there's a lot of content creators that spread the word of the game in a really good way. So shout outs to you guys, all of you. Join the Discord. I'm sure we can get a link in the thing.
Yeah, we'll post a link. We'll post all the GFG links in the description so you guys can follow.
And yeah, really, that's it. I mean, just be good to each other and be good to yourself.
Awesome. Well said. Couldn't end it better myself. So we'll catch you guys in the next video, and GG's.
See ya.
Oh shit.